Hello, everybody, and welcome to Just Joshing a Podcast. My name is Joshua Pantellaresco, and I'm a writer trying to become a podcaster, and this is the very first episode of the Just Joshing Podcast. Before I tell you what it's about, I want to do a quick shout out to my friends Matt Plachta, Jan Birch, and Finn Law for coming up with the name of this. I decided to post a suggestion on my Twitter and Facebook accounts, see what people would come up with. And those three individually came up with this name in their own way. I think Matt was the one that came up with it first, but it was just amazing how it just all kind of worked out. So, guys, if you're listening to this, well, you named the podcast. Thank you very much. And, yeah, so you're not going to get any money for it, though, in the long run. But thanks very much, anyways, guys. I hope you guys are doing well. So, what is Just Joshing going to be about? After some consideration, if I was going to try to do a podcast, I thought, well, maybe I go with what I already do. And one of the things I do all the time is interviews. By interviews, I mean full-length conversations. I personally hate questions and answers when I do interviews these days because, don't get me wrong, there's a place for it, and yes, every interview on Setpoint has a question. But the thing of it is, question and answers don't really let you know about who you're dealing with very much. It's a very, or it can be anyways, very superficial. And to be honest with you, everybody I talk to is really interesting. Simon Rose is the guy who first really did the question and answer. I kind of threw that out the window. And we just had a conversation. And Simon's an amazing dude. At some point he's going to be on this podcast, I promise. But no, he's just a one-of-a-kind character. But at the same time, he's also an amazing man that's accomplished quite a bit in terms of children's literature. And we both got along just trying to talk about better ways to change the medium and different ideas on how to do it. And some of those interviews are available on my WordPress blog at jpantellaresco.wordpress.com. So I like interviews. And I like those kind of interviews in particular because I get to meet and learn new people that do amazing things. And I'm always pleasantly surprised just how amazing some of these people really are. Whether it's Simon Rose, whether it's my sister, whether it's Liana Kay, whether it's Florence Chan, the artist I have on Storm Dancer. People like that fascinate me. Because I myself feel like I'm on this journey to become a better writer and maybe hopefully a better person as well. I have lived my life, I should say, chasing my dreams. And I have been rewarded with some incredible highs and some incredible lows and some incredible opportunities. And so what this podcast to me is going to be about is talking about some of those incredible opportunities, those highs and those lows. When I was a kid, I was always told never ever play it dangerous. Always look at realistic goals, at least from school. And looking at it now, I'm glad I never took that advice. It has been an incredible ride, top to bottom. If you are a kid or a student or someone that's trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, my biggest advice to you before this continues is try things and do things. And don't be afraid of what other people out there are going to tell you. Because you're going to get your butt kicked a little bit. That's just part of life. But you're also going to learn a lot about who you are and what you stand for and what really matters to you. And you don't do that doing a 9-to-5 job. At least most of us. Most of us have to try different things, do different things, be in different places, and just live. And that doesn't happen, sitting at home. It doesn't happen at a 9-to-5 job. I have a 9-to-5 job. I have a day job. My day job, sometimes the people I deal with feel like they're not in high school. I start jokingly talk to some of my coworkers that some of the attitudes and politics of the place kind of go like this. Dear Diary, I'm telling. That is the mentality some of the people I work with have. I'm not kidding. It boggles the mind to me that this is how you live, and this is how I never wanted to live. Man, I gotta stop doing these I'm not gonna promise you that they're gonna go away anytime soon. The other reason I'm doing this podcast is I've never done a podcast before. It's something different, and it's a different kind of creative exercise. Some creative muscles are being used here that I don't normally use, and I'm gonna have fun doing that. At least that's the hope, anyway. I'm probably gonna make mistakes. To be honest, I kind of don't care that I'm gonna make mistakes. It's just part of life. I'm going to apologize for them in advance, but meh, it's how you learn. So yeah, I'm going to talk to interesting people, and I'm going to talk about life, and I'm going to talk about chasing dreams, because that's what I do. Or what I have been doing. I've been trying to make my dream a reality. What is my dream, you ask? I want to write full time. Not only do I want to write full time, I want to make a living writing full time, and not do anything else. Because honestly, I feel like I'm too old to do anything else. I'm tired of this. The 9-to-5 job is not me. Now, I've trashed it a little bit. I should actually clarify something. There's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job. There really isn't. There's a lot of people that do it and do it happily every day. And if you're one of those people, great. I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad that you have found your niche. And everybody needs to find that. Me personally, I don't fit that mold. I just feel that I want to do something different. And this is about my journey to do that. And part of my journey is talking to great people about how to do it. Now, I'm going to talk primarily about writing, because it's what I do. But I also am going to be interviewing, blah, blah, blah. See, mistake, big deal, no big deal, whatever. I'm going to be interviewing people like illustrators. I'm going to be interviewing graphic novelists. I'm going to be interviewing publishers. I'm going to be interviewing musicians. Anybody that fulfills my criteria of they're doing something amazing. I'd like to interview cosplayers. I'd like to interview contortionists. I'd like to interview pro wrestlers. I'd like to interview actors. Because again, it's all about going out there and doing something you want to do. And that's what I want to talk about, because to me, that is freedom. And that motivates me to do those things for myself. And hopefully listening to this, you will too. My first guest is coming right up. His name is Scott Burtness. He wrote this really cool novel called Wisconsin Vamp. I just finished it. It's really, really fun read. It's comedy horror, which is a really cool genre. And, I didn't have really any real expectations. Scott was a great guy. We hit it off right away at When Words Collide, which is a convention in Calgary about writers' conference. Maybe convention is the wrong word. It's like a writers' conference where writers get together and kind of just meet, mingle, socialize. Me and Scott hit it off fairly well. And I got a chance to talk to him about his books and some ideas about where we think writing's going. And that's coming up next. Now, this is the part where I should probably do a commercial of some kind. And maybe in the weeks to come, I will come up with some kind of really wonderful commercial of some kind. But I think at this point, I'm just going to transition. Thank you guys for listening. And hopefully you enjoy the interview.
So I'm with Scott Burtness. He is an author. He does 2 books, Wisconsin Vamp and Northwoods Wolfman. And no, I did not advertise because they're right in front of me. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. So we're going to go back to something we talked about in the test, which, by the way, I passed with flying colors.
Flying colors. It was amazing.
Yeah, totally. Tell me a little bit about Wisconsin Vamp and Northwoods Wolfman books.
Sure. Yeah. So it's horror comedy, Commodore, horromedy, whatever you want to call it. In a nutshell, it's looking at horror with kind of a sideways, silly lens. Not really meant to scare the pants off somebody, not meant to gross somebody out, but more meant to have them look at things that they're used to seeing in a scary setting and make them laugh instead. So Wisconsin Vamp's the first book. It follows a guy named Herb who becomes a vampire, not entirely sure how, and just has to figure it out. And then the sequel, Northwoods Wolfman, follows his best friend Dallas, who becomes a werewolf. not quite sure how, and actually is such a douche that he doesn't even figure it out.
And this has to be mentioned, folks. Okay, his covers are amazing, but for two entirely different reasons. The first one, Wisconsin Vamp, has a cover of a red-headed guy who kind of reminds me of Rick Moranis in Revenge of the Nerds. All right, and he's got fangs, but the second cover is what really takes the cake. The second cover, you see a guy with that look in his eyes, like, if you're a woman, you should run like hell, but you probably won't. And if you're a guy, you're like, you're a douchebag, but I would drink with you. And that's totally like you totally get that vibe. And I actually gotta compliment your cover designer or your cover artist because straight up, he or she.
Actually, my wife did the covers, so
Okay.
I got lucky.
Damn you. So what's her name?
Her name's Liz.
Does she do other covers?
She's getting into that space. So my books were her first go at covers. She's actually done a couple of covers for a friend of ours who's also an indie author. And she's starting to develop a portfolio so she can maybe look at doing that a little more seriously.
That's awesome. And by the way, good luck to your wife. I really
appreciate that.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about your style, horror and comedy. Now, personally, I love it. So there's simple reason. One, I'm a sucker for movies like Zombieland. They kind of just can look at things and not take itself so seriously. Yeah. If you're gonna do a rampy, campy kind of style thing, if you can let in that you're in on the joke too, it's awesome. So yeah. Does your books go to that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And it's funny because Wisconsin Vamp, I started as a screenplay because I love Evil Dead. I love Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I love Zombieland. I love Grabbers. If you haven't seen Grabbers, it's hilarious. So I love the genre on screen, and so I started as a screenplay. Realized that nobody ever sells a screenplay. It just doesn't happen. So I flipped it to novel format. And when I was writing it, like if I was ever stuck at a point where I wanted to try and figure out what the humor should be, I'd flip on some Monty Python on YouTube, or I'd crack open a Terry Pratchett book or Douglas Adams and try and get that just sort of ridiculously but still dry but still funny bit going on. And then inside that, I mean, it's horror, it's comedy, but I still wanted to try and make it a good story about people that you would identify with, hopefully care about what's going on. So all that mashed into whatever came out.
So I have a question for you. This might be a tough one. What do you see yourself more as, a horror writer or a comedy writer?
More of a comedy writer. Yep. And it's tough when it comes to actually marketing the books. They're up on Amazon, and I have them tagged in the main category, horror. And I know that there are some people that are getting it, and they're not getting what they're expecting. But I was thinking that if I put it in comedy, if you looked at the book and looked at the vampire or the guy turning into a werewolf, it doesn't really resonate with what people might consider just comedy, Dave Barry kind of stuff. So figuring out where to put them has been a little tough, but they definitely skew more toward comedy than horror.
I actually have a thought on this. Just maybe this might actually put your mind at ease a little bit. Once upon a time, Terry Pratchett was the only guy in that fantasy section when he did Color Magic way back in the day when it was Richmond. I mean, there were other attempts at humor. Christopher Stachys, another really good humor sci-fi writer, for example. But generally speaking, Pratchett stood alone.
Sure.
And I think instead of maybe trying to worry about how to make it like everything else, you should actually just try to be you. Because honestly, if this is good, and look, I want to read the book just based on the covers.
That's great.
Yeah, right. I do. I love the feel and the vibe like they present. The only thing is, right, I think maybe what you need to do is maybe put in a couple more books and put in time and establish yourself a little bit more. Because seriously, humorous horror, awesome, right? It's great. I mean, the closest thing I've seen to that is Tom Holt, and he's really more of a fantasy guy, right?
Sure.
Right. So that might be, you might have a whole new niche that in your name, and then maybe 10 years from now you'd be like, you were right, and I'll be like, would you please buy me dinner, Mr. Millionaire? And you're like, hell no, I don't know you anymore. I'm above all this stuff.
So it's fun to think about the especially with indie publishing, and there are so many new works coming in that whole new subsets of genres are getting their own life and their own fan base. I've actually read some really, really fun horror comedy. Christopher Moore, There's a guy named Johnny B. Truant who writes about a fat vampire.
Awesome.
The book's called Fat Vampire, but he's got like a series. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I think there's a place for it. I'm hoping that there are some fans out there. I'm going to keep writing it because I have fun with it.
That's important. We've mentioned a few authors. So are they all your influences? Like Christopher Moore,
Yep.
Aileen Martinez. Have you read him?
I have not.
You need to.
Okay.
Gil's Elf-Fright Diner features werewolves, vampires, and the apocalypse, and witches, and it's great.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
No, it's fantastic. The other person you should read, Fred Saberhagen's take on Dracula.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's older, but there's a touch of it. He completely turns it on his head. It's not quite funny, but it's more lighthearted, and I think it probably would be up your alley.
Cool. Since nobody can see my head bobbing up and down, I'm nodding right now.
Yeah,
that does sound very cool.
Yeah, and it's Fred Saberhagen, man. Who doesn't love Fred Saberhagen? Except for maybe her. I don't know. I'll tell you really, like I said, I've had a blast with the con person. I got to meet a lot of cool people. Your first panel with the zombies and vampires undead was awesome.
Oh, thanks.
You guys were. I like 3 of the 4 of you up there. I think one guy he's pragmatic in a lot of ways, but I don't quite have that philosophy of just writing to a market kind of deal. What's out there?
Yeah, and it's funny because, and I thought that was a fun panel because it was 4 of us and there were 2 indie and 2 traditionally published, and getting the different lens at looking at the world through that. I think that it's possible that when you are with a publisher, you do have to be more market focused. It starts to become more about driving the most sales possible. If you're indie and you're okay with not being a smash success and selling millions of copies, I think you do have a little more flexibility to write what you want. I recently found a book. I haven't read it yet, but author found me on Twitter and told me about his Amish Vampires in Space novel.
Awesome.
And it's just like, okay, I can't think of any publisher in the world that would touch Amish Vampires in Space. Could be wrong, but this guy's having a blast writing what he writes.
If I was a publisher, I would.
Really?
No, I would say no. It sounds awesome.
It sounds awesome.
No, it sounds no. It totally does. No, I mean, see, this is me. I'm somewhere in the middle. I've been published through a small press with the Watcher, and it's epic poetry, which nobody reads, but that's okay. but accidentally wrote it, accidentally published another story altogether. But the thing of it is, I just think that right now today, it's not so much what you write; it's about to some degree who you are as a writer.
Sure.
I had an interview with Rob Sawyer that will be shown sometime in the far future. And one of the things he actually met Isaac Asimov.
Oh, cool.
Well, yeah. Which, by the way, I'm a huge Asimov fan myself. Yeah. And Asimov's advice in writing is really simple: write to please yourself first, and then your readers second.
Yep.
And I think today with the way things are going, like just the fact that the big publishing is getting kind of clumped together. Right, and because Amazon is like crushing everything right now, and which is good and bad. There's some good and bad things to that.
Totally.
But the thing is, what's done now is there's this whole fragments. Like the whole industry is kind of this like almost like renaissance and fragment. And I think this is the time to really try stuff like this because those doors and barriers and those weird ideas that were considered laughable, they might be very marketable right now.
Very true. Yep, yeah. and there's a way to get them out there.
Yeah.
And you can start finding readers.
Exactly.
So yeah, I totally agree. And I think it is a pretty exciting time to be an author, and I'm glad that I stumbled into it, and I hope to keep it going.
So how'd you get into it?
I mean, honestly, so I say this usually as a joke, but it's kind of true. I lived in Los Angeles for, about 6 years, and you get the feeling that you're not allowed to stay if you haven't written a screenplay. Everyone that you meet has a screenplay, and they want to tell you all about it. So I was like, well, crap, if I want to keep living in Los Angeles, I guess I better write a screenplay. And so I started working on it. And again, realized that I didn't know anything about the movie industry. I didn't have any connections in the movie industry. I knew that the likelihood of ever getting that screenplay sold was, 1 million to 1. If on the off chance somebody maybe wanted to pick it up and do it as a super low budget movie, how would it feel to have what's going on in my head end up as a steaming pile of crap on screen? That would break my heart. And so I'm like, hey, I'm just going to make this a novel. That way, it's mine, and I can package it the way that I want, and I can write it the way that I want, and I don't have to worry about somebody else's vision or lack of budget making a mess of it. Um, Amazon was there; it was super easy to self-publish, and I had so much fun doing the first one that I wrote the second one. It's second one's out now. I'm working on the third one. When the third one's done, I want to write a book of short stories in the same world with the smaller characters. Like it just you kind of get that bug, and you just keep going.
Yeah. Oh, I know the feeling. I've been doing this weekend. I've been writing actually my next novel while I'm there.
Cool, nice.
Yeah, and mine is about the secret origins of autocorrect.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Are they like nefarious origins?
They are nefarious in
All
a
right.
very classic world domination kind of sense. No, it's the whole idea is I decided I saw a program once where I was doing research on a more serious novel about evolution. They have this like program where these bits and bytes are replicating themselves, which
Okay.
is it's just a neat little thing. And it occurred to me, with all the screw ups we have in autocorrect, we kind of need with all the bits and bytes. And I put quirks. I don't know why. This is what I did. Decided they wanted to take over the world, but how could they do it? And I'm thinking stealing our diction. That seems like a really good.
Yep.
And it is as silly as you can imagine. I have done. My narrator is very whimsical.
Okay.
Very almost Dr. Seuss like in some ways,
Sweet.
which is just like. It's not quite like that, but it's along that kind of whimsical vein, and it's
Sure.
like I'm having way too much fun writing this.
Yeah.
I was giggling like a fool, and Brian, the publisher at Edge, actually came over. What are you laughing at? And
You're like myself.
no. I told him. I pitched it to him right there. He literally bent over laughing because it was fun. It's funny.
That's awesome.
We all got these phones now, right? I call them tricorders as a joke, but I mean it's not that far from the truth.
Yep.
Right, and everybody's got one, and it's our medium today.
Yeah.
It really, really is. I mean, television's obsolete. Why would I go? I got this. Even computers. I mean, if it was like maybe like iPad, if the iPad was actually slightly more practical, you wouldn't need a computer anymore.
Nope. Well, so I honestly love the idea for the story because I'm just thinking about like setting off an entire riot in a city because of a deliberate autocorrect mistake in the millions of messages that go out at the same time that make everyone so furious they just lose it.
Yeah, I have a plan with that too. But it's getting there. My emperor of the bytes is named Pittacus the Quark. I don't know why.
That's a great name.
Yeah, it's a great name. It's just, and he's playing the evil, like upper bureaucrat, aristocrat, tyrant, and I make fun of everything. I have class warfare, just how I describe the different groups, right? So.
Sure.
Why not? I figured this you can do a lot. Like the cool thing about humor is you can have a silly situation, but you can reflect some things really going on in real life in a way that doesn't offend people. Because if you come up with, well, this is stupid because of this, and this,
right.
People get really like, ugh. But if you can say, well, this is kind of silly because, well, have you seen this guy walk down the street like this? Don't you think that's just, look at him.
Well, it's funny. I was at a great class yesterday at the conference. Fonda Lee was doing how to write fight scenes. And what she talked about first was understand the importance of a fight scene, not for the sake of the fight, not so you can use big words to describe the really meaty slapping sound of a fist hitting a face. That fight has to drive the emotion and the narrative and the relationships. It has to be part of your story. And, if you take a scene and you pull the fight scene out of that scene, if that scene doesn't completely fall apart, that fight scene was unnecessary. And I started thinking about the comedy that I write and just the comedy that I read. And it's like, the best comedy that I've read is where the author's not just trying to write for the sake of being funny. No. They're giving you characters and situations and worlds that are so relatable and funny.
I mean, my first favorite, God Bless His Soul, Terry Pratchett.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy. Okay, don't get me wrong. Rincewind is very much a one-trick pony.
Sure.
But I love the guards, the man in the watch, and they're very real. I mean, and I like the other one. The one Rincewind story I really like was the Eric or the sorcery, where the dragon won, and people were scared of the dragon and just would do horrible things because of their fear. And I really hit home. It's like that's very real and that's very human.
Sure. Yeah.
And this is a comedy.
Yeah.
All right, and this is a comedy, and
Yep.
no Pratchett. And I love this. In case he gets accused of writing religion, no, that dude was a genius, like
Yeah.
legitimately. And it's like they use comedy to do it.
Yeah.
So
And it's, again, as a young author just getting started, um, it really is inspiring to just look out in the world and see those just bright lights. It it's something to always strive for. It's something to reach toward. Someday that you hope that you can make somebody as happy when they read your book as I was when I picked up my first Terry Pratchett book.
Yes.
So
is he your favorite of all the humor?
he's definitely so. I will always have just a special corner in my heart for Douglas Adams. Um,
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think that Terry Pratchett could ever bump Douglas Adams out of that number one seat.
Well, 42 is the answer to everything, after all.
Well, it absolutely is. But yeah, Terry Pratchett, just the worlds that he imagined, the characters, their shortcomings and their failings, and just was so lovable. So yeah, he's definitely one that I will always hold near and dear to my heart.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Personally, I still think Dr. Seuss is the man. I know that sounds really weird, but no, he was. Okay. I think at heart I'm a comic guy. If you look at my stuff, there's a certain visual.
Sure. Oh, I can see just from the cover of the book.
Yeah, I love visuals. It's funny. You put drawings up, it's a work of art. You put words up, it's a work of art. You mash them together. A lot of people look down on it, but the truth of the matter is, you can do amazing things with together, right? I'm a visual guy. Seuss did that all the time, and he was funny. He was whimsical, but he had
his. I think that you're right. That Seuss's work, if you take away the super specific and beautiful artwork that accompanies his work, it wouldn't be Dr. Seuss. I mean, it's the mix of all of it just came together so wonderfully and so well that it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and I just love the fact. Okay, this is gonna sound like really stupid. I love that for rap battles of history, and then my favorite ones is Shakespeare versus Seuss. Because in the first round, in the first round, Shakespeare lost and he knew it, and he had to up his game, and that was good. And it was just like, he went in there and thought, oh, this guy is nothing. And then you see Seuss paint a scene, and his characters just speak, and you're like, and you look at that was well. And then Shakespeare goes with this like turbo rap, and she goes like 90 miles an hour, and I'm like, that's about right?
Yep.
I mean, that's about how it would go, because it's like Seuss is no joke. A lot of people look at him, and it's like some people dismiss him, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, it's true, and so as a comic, comic aficionado, and I love anime, and I can't tell you how sad it is when I'll jump into an anime movie or a series, and I like the characters, I like the story, I like the world. If the animation isn't there, like if the style that they've chosen doesn't hit me, I just kind of check out.
I think I'm gonna hit you with two hardcore anime questions.
Oh no! Okay, I'm not a super fan, so
no. They're not really hard. It just shows. Like I'm a huge Full Metal Alchemist fan. I love that
That's
show.
A cool show.
Yeah. Which one do you prefer, the original or Brotherhood?
Oh, I didn't know there was a Brotherhood, so I guess the original.
Yeah, the original Brotherhood is faster paced than the original, and the first 8 or 9, you're gonna feel like I've seen this before because you have.
Right.
But then it goes where the manga went and not where the comic went, and it gets really, really good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and you think Bradley was a badass in the first one. Wait till you see him in this one.
Sweet.
Yeah, no, and not just, and it's really cool. That said, I do love some of the ideas in the first one. The pacing was slower deliberately to keep up with the art and stuff for the manga, but also because it just that pace was really good, and you cared about the characters a lot in that show.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's it. I mean, again, when it's well animated, that's what you need to support those characters and those stories. And I mean, and I'm going to sound super cliche here, but Cowboy Bebop is a fantastic series.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But one of the amazing pieces of Cowboy Bebop, I think, is the animation style is fantastic. The characters are great. The stories are good. The music pulls it together.
No, the music's a character. Like, that's seriously, the music's
it's its own thing.
Yeah.
And so again, back to just talking about the comic book world. I think that the comic book world gets a bad rap because people don't understand that you're doing all the things that an author does and illustration. on top of that. Like it's a whole nother
Well,
layer.
it's sort of, we were talking about fight scenes earlier,
Yeah.
right? Okay, there's a story in a fight. Again, another art form that gets laughed at a little bit is professional wrestling. If you ever watch the old, they're like the really old fights. There's a story. Like they're actually telling a story in the ring, and there's a reason. Let's say they're working on that arm, or there's a reason they're going after this, and it feels like a real fight, and it conveys emotion, right, a certain way, and that's really good. That now the modern stuff's very athletic, but doesn't always convey that very well.
Right. No, the old stuff that I grew up with, with the Hulk and Rowdy Piper, the Claw. And, I mean, it was like a soap opera with just enormous, crazily dressed, muscled men in a soap opera. Like all the drama and the backstories and everything. I mean, oh god, as a kid, I loved it.
So when you fight, it matters.
It matters.
That's right.
Yep, it's not about the fight. It's about what happened the month before when the allegiances shifted.
I guess. But I mean, people look at it, but no, it's just like that's how you do really good stuff, right? And there's storytelling in everything. Yep. And if it's really good, it doesn't really matter what I'm just my belief.
What the medium is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And I think more and more today, what's going to happen is, I think mediums are going to keep mixing and matching.
I think so too. Yeah.
I like something like for my book. I did a movie trailer, right? Like an actual trailer.
We talked about that.
Yeah. So I have to actually post the damn thing because I have it's horribly being movie and under budget, but
it's okay.
But yeah, so there's points where you're gonna laugh. You probably shouldn't. And I'm gonna say this right now. I know, but I'm 4. Give me a break. But no. But the thing of it is, I was just saying, like you gotta look at like. Today, I just feel that there's really no limits. The tools are literally right here. I am talking to you on my tripod, my phone, for once in a while I call it that, because it's a tool and it's a medium, and we can convey like stuff. Radio made a huge comeback because of podcasting.
Yes. In my opinion. Well, so you were talking about iPads earlier and tablets and how prevalent smartphones and everything is. I don't think it's going to be very long before you'll no longer have to choose to read a book or watch a TV show, because you're going to be able to read and actually have visual stories woven in throughout that book.
Yeah, and that's a market that really it appeals. Someone came by to the con throughout on Friday, and I met her, and we were talking about their YouTube little application to do that. And it's intriguing, and what I'd like to do is write a short story, and test it because. If nothing else, I'll learn something new. It's a new technology, a new toy, and it's another thing in my arsenal. And worst case scenario, if it bombs, once it's a small story.
Yeah, but I think about Wisconsin Vamp. It's set in rural Wisconsin with dive bars and bowling alleys and all that stuff. And how cool would it be to pull it up on your iPad? You're reading that chapter and you're actually seeing images float across the edge of the page of the dive bar that the characters are inside, or again, you're talking about the world that we're in now is where all these things can start to blend. And what's going to be what is a book 20 years from now going to be like as an experience?
And this is ultimately what this comes down to is the whole experience concept. And that's the one thing a lot of bits and bytes and data right now can't do. You can't do an experience. You can't create, for the moment at least. You can't duplicate a book experience reading a Kindle.
Sure.
At the moment. So now, 3 months from now, who knows? But that's
it's changing fast.
Yeah, it really is. So, but anyway, let's go. Let's end this on some kind of note here. How about actually? I'll ask you 2 really cool questions. Question number 1.
Okay.
What has writing taught you?
Humility.
Yeah.
I was ready to publish my first draft. I wrote it and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. The best thing ever. Hooray. And when I actually got pulled back from that really, really scary cliff that I was willing to just run off of, a billion mistakes, a ton of typos, huge structural problems. And even after squashing all the typo and copy edit bugs that I could find, I'd always find more. So the first thing that I think it's really taught me is it's great to be passionate, to love your ideas, and really care about your work. But you have to be able to step back and take that critical look at, okay, I think this part's great, but is it really? And get that other feedback, get those beta readers, take their criticism, work it, so I think that's been a good lesson for me is just, dial back the ego a bit and let other people tell me that I need to actually fix some stuff.
That's a very good lesson. I think we all make that mistake because I did. It's like, yeah, I am awesome. Then you read, like, no, I'm not.
No, I'm really not.
Yeah, but I do admire. But on the same token, I can look back at young me and go, you were brave to try this. Yeah. You really were. And sometimes even I'll look back, it's like, okay, that was good.
Yeah. And it's all about like as a writer, I'm all like leap before I look. And I do have to start to temper that at some point. But for right now, I'm having fun.
And that's really all that matters. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, this has been great. Thanks for taking the time out to chat.
Oh, no, it's cool. You were a pleasure. Definitely fun to meet, and I hope to see you down the road somewhere else.
Well, I certainly hope you're back at When Words Collide next year and spend a bit more time in Canada.
All right, one last thing real quick. Plug your Twitter, your webpage.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So I'm on Twitter. My handle is SWBauthor.
Okay.
And then my books are on Amazon and CreateSpace, so I do have an Amazon author page. Okay. I should probably get around to building a website for myself, but that's complicated. So you can find me on Amazon, Scott, last name Burtness, Burtness.
Okay. Thank you very much, Scott.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott, for being a good sport and letting me talk to you. Wow, I'm really nervous in this interview. I can tell just how many times I kind of go and like almost like I'm stuttering in a couple of spots and hitting the thing physically. That was me. I can't promise I get any better in some of the other interviews I did. I did a whole bunch of interviews at once, but I will get better. And it just comes with practice. Before I sign off, I just want to recommend Wisconsin Vamp. Sky is an incredibly gifted writer when it comes to characters. You got the sense with Herb, Dallas, like they're real people. Like you know what kind of douchebag Dallas is. You've seen him in that dive bar. You've seen him on that football field. You've seen him in that car lot. And really, that's kind of what I got when I read Dallas. Is like this is the kind of guy that'd sell you a really crappy car, and it fits him very, very well. And Herb, Herb has some interesting things in the novel, some terrible things too. But yet, through all that, you don't ever stop not liking Herb. And I think Scott did a really, really good job of that. And there's some really funny situations. There's some classic situations, I'd almost say, in a couple scenes. It's not like, this grand epic, but it was intended to. It's a fun story. And I highly recommend it to anybody that likes that sort of thing. Wisconsin Vamp by Scott Burtness is available on Amazon.com. And you should definitely check it out. And that's episode 1. Yeah, I know. Gotta stop the ums. But that's okay. That's gonna be my theme. This was a good lesson. I think I'm gonna have to work on some kind of music at some point, at the very least. And at some point, I would love to do some kind of advertisement. So maybe you should hit me up. My email is michaelthroughtime@lib.com. If you guys want to try to sell something on my podcast, I'm all ears. I have to believe in it, but if I'm willing to believe, I'll give you a shot. Next week, I talk about my book, Storm Dancer. It'll be out probably by the time the next podcast is aired. And yeah, I'm really excited. Kind of nervous. You always get kind of nervous right before a release date. Hopefully somebody somewhere will buy it. My guest next week will be Florence Chan, the illustrator of both The Watcher and Storm Dancer, and we talk about her, and I can't wait. Like I said at the very beginning, there are a lot of really cool people out there, and yeah, I've been very, very fortunate, not just meeting, but collaborating with some amazing people, and Florence definitely is awesome, and I can't wait for you to check it out. And I think that's really about it. My Twitter is at jpantaleresco, PANTALLERESCO. Not bad. 40 minutes. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Stay inspired.
Josh.